you heard I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think you'd like to listen, sir.
I'm sorry for that. For your sake, I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with wonderful expression.
Yes, sir.
Have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ernest Wood.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. Eating as usual, I see, dear Algy.
I believe it is customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
Oh, the country.
What on earth do you do there?
Well, when one is in town, one amuses oneself. But when one is in the country, one amuses others. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbours. Neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire. Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire. Ah, yes, of course. Hello, what are all these cucumber sandwiches doing here? And why such a reckless extravagance in someone so young? And who's coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta. And Gwendolyn.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well. But I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
Well, may I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is absolutely disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I've come uptown expressly to propose to her.
I thought you said you would come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
You know, I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. Why, one may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. Then the excitement is over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, dear Algy. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They're ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
When you have been eating them all this time.
That is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
Oh, and very good bread and butter it is too.
My dear fellow, you need not eat it all. Behave as if you are married to already. I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth would you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with.
That is nonsense.
And in the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you must clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean? I know no one of the name of Cecily.
Yes, sir.
Bring me that cigarette case Mr. Worthing left last time he dined here.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case this entire time? I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard. I was nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would. I happen to be more than usually harder.
But there's no point in offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that is rather mean of you, Ernest. I must say.
That is nonsense. You've seen me with it 100 times. And you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read inside one's private cigarette case.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case belongs to someone of the name of Cecily. And you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you really want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, and a very charming old woman she is too. She lives at Tunbridge Wells. Now, please, give it back to me, Aunt.
But why does she call herself Little Cecily if she's your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? Little Cecily with her fondest laugh.
Oh, my dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. It's merely up for an aunt to decide for herself. Now, for heaven's sake, give that back to me, Algy.
That may be, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It is Jack.
No, it isn't. You've always told me it is Ernest. I've introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It's perfectly absurd you're saying your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany.
Well, my name is Ernest in town, in Jack, in the country. The cigarette case was given to me where? Ah, yes, the country. Now, please.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives in Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. I've always suspected of you being a secret confirmed bunburyist. And I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth is a bunbury? Yes.
I'll reveal that to you as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now, produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there's nothing improbable about my explanation. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a boy, in his will placed me guardian over his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as uncle for motives of respect that you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under charge of her esteemed governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, dear boy, for you are not to be invited. I may tell you quite candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
I suspected that, my dear fellow. I have bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
Well, when one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a high moral tone. In order to go up to town, I've always pretended of having a younger brother by the name of Ernest, who lives in Albany and gets into the most, dreadful of scrapes. That, my dear Algie, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. In truth, what you really are is a bunburyist. I was quite right in saying you're a bunburyist. In fact, we're one of the most advanced bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Ernest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. And I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down to the country whenever I choose. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's. For I really have been engaged to Augusta for more than a week.
Well, thankfully, I haven't asked for you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know. You're absurdly careless about sending out invitations.
Well, I think you'd much better dine with your, what do you call her, Aunt Augusta.
I dined with her on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. Besides, I know whom she would place me next to tonight. Mary Farquhar. Always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. The amount of women in London who flirt with their husbands is perfectly scandalous. It is simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a confirmed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunbury.
I'm not a Bunburyist, and if Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. In fact, I may just kill him after all. For Cecily, she has become far too interested in him. So I'm going to get rid of Ernest, and I advise you do the same with your Mr. Whatever your invalid friend who has that absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if ever you get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you'll be very glad to know Bunbury.
That is nonsense. I won't want to know this Bunbury. That's absurd. And if I ever marry,
that must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get out of the way for 10 minutes, so you have an opportunity of proposing to Gwendolyn, might I dine with you tonight at Willis's?
I suppose so.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving quite well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
Those are not quite the same things. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you're smart.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
No, you are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I apologize if we were a little late, Algernon. I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I haven't seen her since her poor husband's death. Never saw a woman quite so altered. She looked quite 20 years younger. Now I shall have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Gwendolyn, won't you sit here?
No, thank you, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumber sandwiches in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir. Not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane.
Thank
Thank you. I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some comforts with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Oh, it has changed colour. From what cause, of course, I cannot say. I have quite the treat for you tonight, Algernon. I shall be sending you down with Mary Farquhar. She's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband.
It is a great disappointment to me, but the fact is, I won't be able to dine with you tonight after all, Aunt Augusta.
I should hope not, Algernon. That would put my table completely out.
The truth is, I have just had a telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill again. They seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange, Algernon, because Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, Algernon, I think it is high time that he make up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. The shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. I should be much obliged, Algernon, if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta. He is still conscious, and I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. Now, if you'll kindly accompany me to the next room for a moment, you can run over the program I've gone out.
Thank you, Algernon. That was very kind of you. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day, isn't it, Miss Fairfax?
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
What I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I've often had to speak to her about. Betty, Lane, please turn away.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I've met you, I've admired you more than any girl that I've ever met since I met you.
I'm quite well aware of that. For me, you've always had an irresistible fascination. We live, as I hope you're aware, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. My ideal has always been to love someone of the name Ernest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Passionately.
Darling, you don't... Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But it is Ernest.
Yes, but supposing it was something else, do you mean to say that you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation.
Yes. Well, to speak quite candidly, darling, I don't much like the name of Ernest. I don't think that it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It's a divine name. Has a music of its own. Produces vibrations.
Well, honestly, darling, I think there are lots of other, much nicer names. I think, for instance, Jack, a charming
Jack. No, there is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all indeed. I have known several Jacks, and they all without exception were more than usually plain. No, the only really safe name is Ernest.
Well, I must get christened at once. Married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing.
Well, yes, you know that I love you, and you've led me to believe that you're not absolutely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing at all has been said about marriage. The subject hasn't even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I only feel it fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I'm fully determined to accept you.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn.
Take my hand.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Oh, of course I will, darling. Why, how long you've been about it. I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
Oh, my own one. I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully brown eyes you have, Ernest. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing! Rise from this seeming recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mama, I must beg you to retire at once. Mr. Worthing is not quite yet finished.
Finished what, may I ask?
Mr. Worthing and I are engaged to be married, Mama.
Gwendolyn, you are not engaged to be married to anyone. When you do become engaged, either I or your father will inform you of the fact, should his health permit him. Gwendolyn, I have some questions about Mr. Worthing here, and while I make these inquiries, you shall wait for me below in the carriage.
Mom!
The carriage, Gwendolyn. Betty, you will escort Gwendolyn.
Yes, ma'am.
Jane! Yes, ma'am? Would you like some tea? You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, native Bracknell, but I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you, Mr. Worthing, thank you, that you were not down on my list of eligible young men, but I feel quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
I'm afraid yes, I do smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. Now, far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
I'm 29.
A very good age to be married at. Mr. Worthing, I've always held the opinion that a man who wishes to get married should either know everything or know nothing. Which do you know?
Well, I know nothing, native Bracknell.
I'm glad to hear it, sir. A man should always have... It's very good. I mean... I do not approve of anything that touches with ignorance. Natural ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. What is your income?
Oh, between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
Oh, in investments chiefly. I do own a country house with some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, I believe. But I do not rely on that for my real income.
You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to be raised to reside in the country.
Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square.
What number on Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that can be easily altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both if necessary, I presume. Now on to minor matters. Are both your parents living?
I've lost both my parents.
Mr. Worthing, to lose one parent may be regarded as misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who's your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth.
Well, I don't really know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said earlier that I'd lost both my parents. Well, I find it nearer the truth to say that my parents, well, They seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes, the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, a man of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket to Worthing in his back pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It's a seaside resort.
And where did this Mr. the charitable gentleman with the first-class ticket to the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was found in a handbag, or rather, a large brown handbag with handles, of course, attached to it, and in fact, a very ordinary handbag.
And what locality did this Mr. James Thomas Cardew find this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
A cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
Mr. Worthing, the line is immaterial. I confess, I feel somewhat bewildered by what you just told me. To be born at any rate, bred in a handbag, seems to me to display contempt for the ordinary family decencies, which reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to.
Well, then,
Excuse me. And a handbag and a cloakroom at a railway station. It can hardly be recognized as a good position in society for anyone.
well, then, what would you advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and produce some kind of relation, any kind, one parent of either sex before the season is quite out.
I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. Well, I can produce the handbag at any moment. I'm sure that would satisfy you, Lady Ragnall.
Me, sir? What has this got to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I, or Lord Bracknell, would allow our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and formalize with a parcel. Good day, Mr. Worthing.
Good day to you!
Formalize with the parcel.
Algernon! Would you stop playing that ghastly tune? Oh, how idiotic you are!
My dear boy, you don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you.
Oh no, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are to be married. Her mother, however, is perfectly unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I don't even know what a gorgon is, but I'm sure that you got know this one. Anyway, I never met such a monster. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own aunt in front of you like that.
My dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only thing that makes me put up with them at all.
Don't think there's any chance of Gwendolyn turning out like a mother in 150 years, do you, Algie?
My dear boy, all women become like their mothers. That is a tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased. Quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be. By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't something one tells to a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to women. Truth.
But I thought you said... What about your brother? What about the profligate Ernest?
Ernest? Oh. Well. I shall got rid of him by the end of the week. I shall say that he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die in Paris of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they, Alan?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. You'd much better say a severe chill.
But wait a second. You can't say that Gwendolyn and Cecily could never meet. They are perfectly certain to be the greatest of friends. I bet you anything you like it. Half an hour after they met, they will be calling each other sister.
Women only do that when they've called each other a lot of other things first. Now, if you want to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go and dress. Do you know it is nearly 7?
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
My own darling.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents pay any regard nowadays to what anything their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the youth is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But those may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often. Nothing she could ever do could possibly alter my eternal devotion to you.
Dear Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin as related to me by Mamma with unpleasing comments has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination, and the simplicity of your character is exquisitely incomprehensible. Your tone and address at the Albany I have. What's your address in the country?
The Manor House. Manor House, Walton, Hertfordshire.
There's a good postal service, I suppose. We might have to do something desperate, and that, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Until Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
Gwendolyn, I shall see you to your carriage.
Certainly.
Lane, I shall see Miss Fairfax out.
A glass of sherry, Lane. Bills, bills, bills. Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going buttering.
Yes, sir.
You can put my smoking jacket, the dress suits, and all the Bunbury outfits in the carriage.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There is a simple, intellectual girl. The only girl that I ever cared for in my entire life. And what is she? Algernon, what do you find so amusing?
Oh, I'm a little worried about poor Bunbury, that is all.
You don't take care. Your friend Bunbury is going to get you into a serious scrape one day.
My dear boy, I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You never talk of anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily, such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather the gardener's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasure is away to you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray open it to page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language, and I know more than perfectly well that I always look quite plain after my German lessons.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German grammar as he was leaving for town yesterday.
Dear Uncle Jack is so serious. Sometimes I think he is so serious that I cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best
responsibility. I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. We might have a good influence on him, Miss Prism.
I am not in favor of the modern mania for turning bad people into good at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so shall he reap. You must put away a diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should do that at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is a diary that we all carry with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that haven't happened and the things that couldn't possibly have ever happened. I believe memory is responsible for nearly all 3-volume novels.
Do not speak slightly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in the early days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? Oh, how wonderfully clever you are! I do hope they do not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it does seem rather unfair. Was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript unfortunately was abandoned. I use the term in the sense of lost and mislaid. Now, to your work, child. Speculations are profitless.
But I see a Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism?
Oh, just well.
Miss Prism has just been complaining about a slight headache, dear doctor. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything about headache.
Oh no, dear Miss Prism, I know that. But I felt it instinctively. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not my German when the rector came in.
Cecily, I hope you're not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid that I am.
That is strange, for were I Miss Prism's pupil, how would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. No. My metaphor is drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing has not returned from town yet, I suppose.
Oh, we should not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Yes, he usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man whose brother seems to be. I will see you both, no doubt, at Evenson.
I think, dear doctor, I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache after all. A walk might do it good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools of God.
That would be delightful. Cecily? Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. Chapter on the fall of repeat you may omit, which is somewhat too sensational.
Oh, horrid political economy! Horrid geography! Horrid German!
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage and his man with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, the Ford, the Albany, W. Uncle Jack's brother! Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned that you and Mr. Prism were in the garden, and he said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Do ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here. And I suppose you had better see to the housekeeper about getting a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met a really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm afraid he'll look just like everyone else. And he does.
You all managed to cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
I'm afraid you are under some strange mistake. Why, I'm not little. In fact, I believe I am more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. And you, I see from your card, are my cousin Ernest. Oh, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, but you must not think that I'm wicked, cousin Cecily. I'm not really wicked at all.
Oh, if you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I do hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and really being good all this time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I suppose I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think that you should be so proud of that. Though I am sure it must have been very pleasant.
It's much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand how you are here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment to me. I'm obliged to go up by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I'm anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
I know, of course, how important it is to not keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of beauty in life. But still, I think you had better wait till Uncle Jack got back. He wanted to speak to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
Why, you're immigrating. He said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Oh well, the accounts I've received of Australia and the next world are not altogether promising. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission if you don't mind, cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
I think it is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
Well, you're looking a little worse.
That is because I'm hungry.
How thoughtless of me! I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? A pink rose?
Why?
Because you like pink rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think it can be right for you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never said such things to me.
And Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You're the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They are snares every sensible man would like to be caught in.
I don't think I would like to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are too much alone, dear Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. The precept calls the practice of the primitive church and distinctly against matrimony. That is obviously why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. You do not seem to realize, Doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. But is a man not as equally attractive when married? No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife. And often I've been told, not even to her. Where's Cecily? She might have followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing,
Mr. Worthing.
it's indeed a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I'm afraid I've returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you all will.
Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother!
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure, I suppose.
Dead!
Your brother Ernest? Dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Oh, brother Ernest, he had many faults, but it is still such a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him in the end?
No. He died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I received a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I, myself, am peculiarly susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No. He seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear this hardly points to any serious state of the mind at the last. You have no doubt which makes some slight allusion to his tragedy next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the monarch in the wilderness can be adopted to almost any occasion, joyful, or in the present case, distressing. I preached at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, and on days of humiliation.
Pardon me, you mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. I suppose you know how to christen, all right? I mean, of course, you are constantly christening.
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the poor class on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But, Mr. Worthing, is there any particular infant whom you're interested in? Your brother was unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But this is not for any child. No, I'm very fond of children. In fact, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
But, Mr. Worthing, haven't you been christened already?
I don't remember anything about it.
Have you any grave doubts on the subject?
Oh, I certainly intend to have. But I do understand if this bothers you in any way, or if I'm a bit too old.
Not at all. Sprinkling and, indeed, the immersion of adults is perfectly canonical practice.
Oh, I'm sorry, immersion.
You need have no apprehension. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or I think is advisable. However, there is simply changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I'll trot around about 5 if that suits you.
Perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies performed at the same time. A case of twins that occurred recently in one of the outlying cottages of your own estate.
Oh. Well, I don't see much fun in being christened along with other babies. That would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will no longer intrude in a house of sorrow. I merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seems to us bitter trials offering blessings in disguise.
Seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, Uncle Jack, I'm so pleased to see you back, but what horrid clothes you've got on, and why does Jenny have those ugly flowers?
Cecily!
My child!
Uncle Jack, whatever's the matter? Oh, do you look happy? You look as though you've had a toothache, and I got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother!
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What? That is nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that, Uncle Jack. However badly he may have treated you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. Why, I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
After we'd all been resigned to his loss, sudden return seems to me particularly stressing.
That's a very joyful tidings.
My brother in the dining room. No, I don't know what all this means. But I'm sure that all of this is perfectly absurd. My brother has passed away. Oh, good heavens!
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for all the trouble I've caused you. But I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Why, Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand?
Nothing will induce me to take this man's hand. I think his coming up here disgraceful, and he knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. Ernest has just been telling me all about his poor invalid friend Mr. Bunbury, whom he often goes to visit in London. And surely there must be much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leave the pleasures of London to sit by the bed of pain.
Oh, so he's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes. Why, he's told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it's the first time I've come here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
What? Never forgive me!
Never,
Oh.
never.
Fine, but this will be, mark my words, the last time I ever do so.
It's pleasant, is it not, to see such perfect reconciliation? I think we might leave the two brothers together.
Yes, Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
Algernon, you scoundrel! You have got to go! I don't allow any of this Bunburying here!
I have put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right?
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage, sir. His maid has unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
Thank you, Lane, for being so prompt.
I'm sorry. His luggage.
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Naaman, order the dog cart at once. Out. Mr. Ernest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I've not been called back to town at all.
Oh, yes you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can perfectly see well why.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of this Cecily called you like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You're perfectly ridiculous in them. It's childish to be in deep mourning for a man who's actually staying with the whole week for you in your house as a guest.
You are not staying with me for a week as a guest or anything else. You have got to go by the 4:05 train.
I certainly won't leave you, so long as you're in mourning.
Oh, where will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, for you not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress. For such a little result.
Well, at any rate, it's always better than being overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct and outrage and your presence here in my garden is utterly absurd. But you've got to go by the 4:05 train. I hope you have, such a pleasant journey back to town. This Bunburying, as you like to call it, has not been a great success.
Lane, I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything.
Why, I really came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Is he going to take you for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away.
Then have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's very painful parting.
It is always painful
Lane, please take my things and put them away. I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
Your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to look at it, may I?
Oh no! It is simply a very young girl's record of her thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in the volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more.
Cecily, ever since I looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you. Wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me. Wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come around next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
I think Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on until next week, same hour.
No, I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anybody in the whole world but you, Cecily. I love you. You'll marry me, won't you?
Of course! Why, you silly boy! We've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months.
Of course! It will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who's very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And any man who has talked about that much is always very attractive. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or the other. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day, I went out and bought this little ring in your name. And this is the little bangle with the true lover's knot which I promised you always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. Oh, and this is the little box in which I keep all your dear letters.
But my own sweet Cecily, I have never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I was only forced to write your letters for you. I always wrote 3 times a week, sometimes oftener.
Oh, do let me read them, Cousin
Oh,
Cecily.
I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I had broken off our engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. On the 22nd of last March. You can read the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather continues charming.
But why had you broken it off? I am very much hurt indeed to hear you broke it off, Cecily. Particularly when the weather was so charming.
Well, it wouldn't have been a really serious engagement had I not broken it off at least once, but I forgave you before the week was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
Oh, you dear romantic boy. I like your hair so much. I hope it waves naturally, does it?
Yes, darling, with a little help from others.
Oh, I'm so glad.
You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
Oh no, I don't think that I could now that I've actually met you. And besides, that is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
Now you mustn't laugh at me, Ernest. But it has always been a girlish dream of mine to marry someone of the the name Ernest. Why, there's something in the name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. Why, I pity any poor married girl whose husband is not called Ernest.
But you don't mean to say you could love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like Algernon.
I don't see why you should object to the name. It isn't at all a bad name. Half the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name really was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character. But I fear I would never be able to give you my full, undivided attention.
And your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the rites and ceremonials of all the church. I must see him at once on most important christening. I mean on most important business.
Oh,
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
seeing as though we've been engaged for the last 3 months and that I've only just met you now, it seems rather hard that you should leave me for as long a time as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I should enter his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in the library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray, ask the lady to come here. I'm sure Mr. Worthing will be back shortly. And you can bring some tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose one of the many good elderly women associated with Uncle Jack's philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women interested in philanthropic work.
Miss Fairfax.
Oh, pray, allow me to introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me that we are going to become great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've known each other for such a comparatively short amount of time. Pray, sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
If you please.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this might be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've never heard of Papa, I suppose.
No, I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is how it should be. The home to me seems to be the proper sphere for the man. Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It's a part of the system. So, do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. Why, I'm very fond of being looked at.
You were here on a short visit, I suppose?
Oh no, why, I live here.
Really? Your mother, or no doubt some female relative of advanced years, resides here also?
Oh no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relatives.
Indeed.
My guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
Very strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. Grows more interesting hourly. Cecily, I'm very fond of you, dear Cecily. I've liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state, now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I can't help expressing a wish that you were, well, just you appear to be not so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Oh, pray do. I think that when one ever has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, speak with perfect candor, Cecily. I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honor. But even men of the noblest possible moral character can be extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less ancient history supplies us with many painful examples of what I speak. Indeed, if it were not so, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolen, but did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother.
You never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
Oh, I'm sorry to say that they have not been on good terms for a while now.
Oh, that accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I've never heard a man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would be terrible if some cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you were quite sure it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, dear Gwendolen. Why, I see no reason why I should make a secret of it to you, seeing as our little country newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Ernest and I are engaged to be married.
I'm afraid there is some slight error, dear Cecily. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I'm afraid you are under some strange mistake. Why, Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It's certainly very strange, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at about 5:30. If you care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel anywhere without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm so very sorry if it's any disappointment to you, dear Cecily, but I'm afraid I have to pay a claim.
It would distress me more than I can say, dear Gwendolen, if it brought you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest has proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten himself into, I will never reproach him for it after we are married.
You allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest to me, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you! This is no time for wearing the shadow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm very glad to say I have never seen a spade. It is obvious to me that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall we lay tea here as usual? Yes, as usual.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes, a great many. From a hill very close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? Oh, I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
And I suppose that's why you live in town?
Quite a well-kept garden, this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were so many flowers in the country.
Oh, yes. They are as common here as people are in London.
Personally, I cannot understand how anyone manages to exist in the country. If anybody who is You have filled my tea with sugar, and though I ask most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I will not go.
The moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
Seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I'm trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt that you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest, my own Ernest.
Dear Gwendolyn.
A moment. May I ask if you are engaged to this young lady?
What? To dear little Cecily? Oh, why, of course not. What could have put an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew that there was some strange mistake. The gentleman whose arm is present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack.
Oh! Why, here is Ernest.
My own one.
A moment! Ernest, I must ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn?
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I felt that there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The man who's currently embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief! Oh! Oh, do they really call you Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John. It has been John for years.
Oh, gross deception has been practiced on the both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily!
My sweet Rose Gwendolyn!
You will call me sister, won't you?
There is one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Wedding, there's just one question we would be allowed to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to your brother Ernest, and it is some matter of importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at the present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it pains me to have to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life I've ever been forced to such a painful position. But the truth is that I have no brother, Ernest. I've never had a brother at all. I've never had a brother in my life, and I certainly intend not to have a brother, not of any kind in the future.
No brother at all?
None.
Not of any kind?
Never. Not of any kind.
It is quite clear to me, dear Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to anybody.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us retreat into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
Certainly. Men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bum-bearing, I suppose.
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful bunbury it is too. The most wonderful bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, like I said before, I don't allow any bum-bearing here.
That is absurd. One has a right to bunbury anyone one chooses. Every serious bunburyist knows that.
The only small satisfaction I have about the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You ought to be able to run on down to the country quite so often as you used to, my dear Algie. And a very good thing that is, too.
The Without your brother, you won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your weird custom was.
Oh, and as for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I can see no possible defense at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever young lady like Miss Fairfax. Say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I just wanted to be married to Quentin. That is all. I loved her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
Well, I don't think there's any chance of you ever marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't see much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is no business of yours.
It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Nobody ever does except stockbrokers and people like that.
How could you sit there calm me eating muffins when we're in this horrible trouble? I can't quite make it out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter will probably get on my cups. One should always eat muffins white on it. It's the only way to eat them.
Well, I think it is perfectly heartless you eating muffins at all under these circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything, except food and drink. At the present moment, I'm eating because I'm upset. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
Well, there's no reason why you should be eating them in that greedy way.
I wish you'd have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Good heaven! I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But you have just said it was perfectly harmless to eat muffins.
Yes, but I say it was perfectly heartless of you under these circumstances.
That may be, but the muffins are the same.
Algernon, I want you to leave Lane and to get him to go.
No, sir. That would be very difficult, sir.
You are.
Jack, you can't possibly ask me to go having my dinner. Nobody ever does except vegetarians, people like that. Besides, I've just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Ernest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I've already made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself at 5:30, and I shall naturally take the name of Ernest. Gwendolyn shall wish it. And we can't be both christened Ernest, that's absurd. And besides, I have the perfect right to be christened if I like. There's no evidence whatsoever that I've been christened. You have been christened already.
But I haven't been christened for years.
Yes, but you have already been christened. That is the point.
Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. If I wasn't ever having to have my being christened, I must say I think it rather dangerous you're venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You can hardly have forgotten. Someone very closely connected with you was nearly carried off this week in Paris. I see chill.
Oh, yes, but you said yourself that a chill was not hereditary.
I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
Algernon, that is nonsense. All you ever talk about is nonsense.
Jack, you have done muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. Well, do that. I told you I was particularly fond of muffins.
Oh, I hate tea cake.
Why then do you allow tea cake to be served up for your guests? With ideas of hospitality.
No. Algernon, I've already told you to go. I do not want you here. Why won't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. Oh, there's still one muffin, right?
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house shows that they have some sense of shame left. Ooh.
Why, they've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us. It couldn't you cough?
I haven't got to cough.
They're looking at us. What effrontery! They're approaching!
Oh, that's very forward of them.
Let us maintain a dignified silence.
Certainly. It is the only thing to do now.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. Eyes are blue, but oh, what those 5 feet could do. Has anybody seen my gown? Turned up nose and turned out hose, never had no other clothes. Has anybody seen my gown? And if you run into a 5 foot 2 covered in furs, diamond rings and all those things, bet your life it isn't her.
This dignified silence seems to be producing an unpleasing effect.
Most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to break it.
Certainly not.
But could she love, could she woo, and could she coo? Has anybody seen my gown? Has anybody seen my gown?
Mr. Wedding, there is just one question I would be allowed to put to you.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation.
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. But that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Wedding, what explanation can you give to me for pretending to have a brother?
Well,
Was it in order to have an opportunity to come up to town to see me as often as possible?
oh, can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. The answer seems satisfactory to me, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to have the stamp of truth upon it.
And I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
No. True, there are principles at stake that one can simply not surrender. Which must you tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
Lovely idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian name?
Is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
You mean you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
Oh, I am.
To please me, you are prepared to go through this fearful ordeal?
I am.
Oh. How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes when men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
We have moments of great physical courage to which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
Hey, where do you think you're going? Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I engage to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young and physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid Betty, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin, I followed her at once by means of a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am pleased to say, under the impression that she is attending a modernity lecture by the university. I do not propose to undeceive him. In fact, I have never undeceived him on any fronts. Of course, sir, you understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, as indeed on all points, I'm firm.
But I'm to be married to Gwendolyn Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. Now, as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Augusta.
may I ask if this is the house where your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
What? No. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at the present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Paul Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, Paul Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury? Oh, he was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he some victim of some revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out Bunbury could not live. That is what I mean. So Bunbury died.
He seems to have a great confidence in the opinions of his physicians. However, I am greatly pleased that he has decided on some definite course of action and acted upon it under proper medical advice. Mr. Worthing, may I ask who the young person is whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a strangely unnecessary manner?
That young lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I don't know whether there is anything particularly exciting about this certain part of Hertfordshire, but the numbers of engagement that goes on seems to me to be highly above the proper average that statistics have laid out for our guidance. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all related to any of the larger railway stations of London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any families whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cecily Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Southwest Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Spawn, Fifeshire, N.B.
Sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspires confidence. But what proof do I have of their authenticity?
Oh, I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period. They're open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
So far, I am satisfied.
Oh, how extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I also have in my possession, you'll be so pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, registration, vaccination, confirmation, the whooping cough, and the measles, both of the German and English variety.
A life crowded with incidents, but perhaps too crowded for a young girl. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Come, Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure. As not your fault, Mr. Worthing, I must ask if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Good day, Lady Bracknell, so pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me a very attractive young lady now that I look at her. Come here, child. Kindly turn around, dear. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile, but chin a little higher, dear. Style is largely dependent on how the chin is worn. It is worn very high at present. Algernon.
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Algernon, never speak disrespectfully about society. Only people that can't get into it do that. Of course, dear, you understand that Algernon has nothing but his debts to his name to depend on. But I myself am not in favor of mercenary marriages. Why, I had nothing when I married Lord Bracknell, but I never dreamed of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Oh, thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may kiss me, Cecily. And you may also address me as Aunt Augusta from now on.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I think the marriage should take place rather soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I'm not in favor of long engagements. They give people the chance to get to know each other's character before they get married, which I think is never advisable.
Pardon me for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. For I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent, I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask?
If you suspect Algernon of being a truthful young man, you are very, very wrong. For I suspect of Algernon being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon, impossible. He went to Oxford.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. During this afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on a question for romance, he obtained admissions to my house by the means of the false pretense of being my brother. He succeeded in the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he was perfectly well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I never had a brother, and I never intended to have a brother, not of any kind.
After careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct towards you, Mr. Worthing.
Oh, that is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My decision, however, is unalterable, and I decline to give my consent.
Come here, child. How old are you?
Well, I'm really only 18. But I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You're quite right in making some small altercation to your age. A woman should never be fully honest about how old she is. 18? But admitted to 20 at evening parties? Well, you will soon be of age, so I really don't think that your guardian's consent is of any matter at all.
Oh, pray excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell, but according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come of age till she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. There are many women in London of the highest position who have remained 35 of their own free will for years. I do not see why Miss Cardew will be any less attractive than she is now, than at the age you have mentioned, and there shall be a large accumulation of property.
Algie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. But I could not wait all that time. I'm not a very punctual person myself, though I do like punctuality in others. And waiting, even to be married, is quite out of the question.
And what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew has stated positively that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark, I must state, seems to show a rather unpatient character. I would beg of you to reconsider.
Well, you see, Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. For the moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I shall happily allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
Of course, Mr. Worthing, you understand that what you propose is entirely out of the question.
Well, then a passionate celibacy is all of us could ever look forward to.
That is not the destiny that I have proposed for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can make up his own mind. Come, Gwendolen, we've already missed 5, if not 6 trains, and to miss any more would open us up to a comment on the platform.
Is everything quite ready for the christening?
The christening, sir? Doesn't that seem a bit premature?
Both of these men have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
A baptism? At their age? The idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you from being baptized. I will not hear of such excess.
I want to understand that there'll be no baptism at all.
I think as things are now, it wouldn't be much practical value to any of us, Dr. Chasuble.
Mr. Worthing, I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you. But as our prison mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I must return to the church at once. In fact, I've been informed by the new pew opener that Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Pardon me, sir. Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. Did I hear you mention Miss Prism?
Yes, ma'am, on my way to the church to join her.
Sir, is Miss Prism a female of a repellent aspect, at all connected to education?
Miss Prism is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
May I ask what position do you hold in your household?
I'm a single clergyman, madam. There are no females in my household.
Oh, I think Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been, for the past 3 years, Miss Cardew's guardian and esteemed governess.
Despite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Not to be sent for.
Jenny, will you please fetch Miss Prism and ask for her to join us?
Yes, sir. Dr. Chasuble, I was told you expected me in the vestry there, Canon. I've been waiting there for you for 1 hour and 3/4.
Prism!
Oh no.
Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Roseland Street, in charge of a large preambulator, and you never returned. In the preambulator contained a baby of the male sex. A few weeks after the elaborate investigation of the Metropolitan Police, the preambulator was found in a remote corner of Bayswater. But the baby was not there. Inside, instead, contained a 3-volume novel with more than revolting sentimentality. But Prism, again, the baby was not there. So Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I speak for shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. Plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded in my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out of its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few and occupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
Yes, but where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I demand to know where you placed that handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria. The Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you're not too long, I will wait for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly considered best beings.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian is a very emotional nature.
Sounds as if he was having an argument. I despise arguments of any kind. They are always vulgar and often convincing.
Stop now.
What the hell causes such confusion?
The suspense is terrible.
Good God.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here's the injury received on the upsetting of a gouge, omnibus in younger and happier days. And here's a stain on the lining, an incident that occurred in Binghamton. And here, on the lock are my initials. I'd forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am so delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It's been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
more is restored to you than just that handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes. Mother!
Mr. Worthing, I'm unmarried.
Unmarried. Oh, well, I do not deny that is a serious blow. But has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Oh, Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is a lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell. I really do hate to sound inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me who I am?
You, Mr. Worthing, are the eldest son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief. Consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algernon's elder brother. Then I have a brother after all. I always knew I had a brother! Oh, Cecily, how could you ever doubt that I had a brother? Oh, look, what's terrible? It's my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Where did it come me? My unfortunate brother. Algernon, you will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You've never behaved like a brother to me in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit. Though I have been out of practice.
My own! But what own are you now that you've become someone else?
Oh, good heavens. I've quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never changed, except in my affections.
Well, the question better be cleared up at once. A moment, Aunt Augusta. Before Miss Prism placed me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished upon you by your fond and doting parents.
Okay, it is settled. I was christened, but what name was I given? Oh, let me hear the worst.
I cannot at the moment recall. But being that you were the eldest son, you were obviously named after the father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, Algernon, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were barely even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
Well, you don't suppose his name would appear in the army lists of the period, don't you, Aunt Augusta?
I would suppose so, yes.
Oh, well then, the army list of the last 40 years are here. Well, these delightful books should have been my constant study. And it's... Oh, here we are. Im Generals. Malum, Maxbom, Magley. Oh, good gosh, the names they have. Markby, Migsby, Moncrief. Let's see. 1840. Captain, Lieutenant, Colonel, General. Oh. 1869. Oh, Christian names. Ernest John. Gwendolyn. I've always told you that my name was Ernest, haven't I? Well, it's Ernest after all. I mean, it's naturally Ernest.
Yes, I recall. I knew I always had some reason for disliking the name Ernest.
Ernest, my own Ernest. I thought from the first you could have no other name.
Oh, Gwendolyn, it is dreadful for a man to suddenly find out that all his life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you ever forgive me?
I can, for I feel you are sure to change.
Oh, my own darling.
Letitia.
Oh, Frederick, at last.
Cecily, at last.
Oh, Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew seemed to be displaying signs of triviality.
Why, on the contrary, Aunt Augusta, for it is the first time in my life I've realized the vital importance of being earnest.